Chapter 67, Chapter 30. Moonlight Restaurant is the restaurant that Zeal and Clara first visited since enrolling in academy. Currently, Clara with the prince and princesses are eating here. Clara, who had been waiting for Zeal from the start to ask for an explanation, ended up eating separately with him. And this time Clara, with a gloomy face, saw Zeal, who was eating accompanied by two beautiful girls. What are they talking about? I can't hear them at all, Clara muttered under her breath, but her voice was heard by Princess Irish, who was next to her. Judging from the serious look on the teacher's face, I don't think this matter has anything to do with romance. Princess Irish seemed to know what Clara was thinking. Clara blushed hearing what Princess Irish said. She immediately returned her focus on her food. What is Freya doing here? Prince Fritz was annoyed, but he saw Kalia pass him by and said with zeal, not to mention that Princess Freya, who ran away from him, made him even more annoyed. I think Freya has her reasons. You don't have to be so hard on her. Princess Aisha tried to calm Prince Fritz, but felt uncomfortable in her heart when she saw Zeal with another woman in front of her. She still didn't understand what the reason for her discomfort was. Alright, I'll talk to her later. Prince Fritz took a deep breath and no longer paid attention to Prince Freya, who was eating at Zeal's table. Strangely, Princess Freya seemed obsessed with the boy. Moreover, what is the need for teachers to meet students who haven't even started their first day of learning at the academy? Princess Rihanna glanced at Zeal's table while muttering softly. Why don't you ask directly if you're curious? Princess Rennie, who was next to her, answered her muttering. That's nonsense. None of my business, Princess Rihanna answered briefly, but she still glanced at the place where Zeal and others were eating. Not long after that, Zeal and Clara finished their food. At the other table, Clara was still annoyed their meal. He walked with Kalia to Clara, who was eating. My lady, I have business with the teacher here. You go back first with Princess Irish, and be careful on the road. Zeal whispered from behind Clara. Yes. Then what is Princess Freya doing? Clara glanced at Princess Freya, who was behind Zeal. Accidentally, she also heard what Zeal and Clara were talking about. I have business with the teacher too. She smiled provokingly at Clara. Seeing that smile, blue veins appeared on Clara's forehead, and not only her, but also Princess Aisha, for no apparent reason, felt the same way. Freya, what are you doing? She is not even our homeroom teacher. What business do you have with her? Prince Fritz suddenly stood up from his seat after hearing what Freya said. I can say that I explain it to you after my business is done. Then I go first. Princess Freya then walk out to the restaurant first, leaving Zeal and Kalia. Lady, I'll go first. Zeal with Kalia followed Princess Freya, who had already left the restaurant. Clara just nodded slightly at Zeal. Clara just noddedly slided at Zeal because she thinks the situation will get even more complicated. If Zeal stays there, she could find another time to ask him for an explanation. Damn, Prince Fritz could only grit his teeth as he saw their figures disappear from the restaurant. Meanwhile, Princess Aisha knew that she couldn't possibly stop the stubborn Princess Freya, so she could only take a deep breath after the three of them left. The three of them arrived at the forest where Kalia's mansion was located. Previously, she tried to bring Sylvie, but she forgot that Sylvie was currently in a cage, so she couldn't return to Kalia's body. She can only leave her in the mansion and go looking for Zeal. And luckily there was a student who knew where they were going, so Kalia didn't have to bother looking for him. Currently, Zeal and the others are in Kalia's mansion. The situation inside of the mansion was still a mess, because she didn't even have time to clean up. After she woke up from fainted and immediately looked for Zeal. Wow, what have you done to become like this? Princess Freya was surprised to see the condition of the room in the mansion. None of your business. Kalia replied nonchalantly. She immediately walked over to where Sylvie was. Zeal and Princess Freya followed behind her. Ah, you're back. When they arrived in the room, they could see a bored-looking mini-sized girl confined in a distorted, transparent cube. Yes, I've brought him with me, and only took care about other people. What she meant was Princess Freya, who came with them. She was intensely unwilling to take her along, but since Zeal doesn't care, so she let it be. And it looks like she knows Zeal for a long time. Oh, is that a spirit? What's more, a great spirit? Princess Freya looked at Sylvie curiously. Zeal walked towards Sylvie, and he flicked the cage that was restraining her. Clank. The cage shattered like glass and turned into light particles. Sylvie was free from her restraints, flew towards Kalia. Don't forget your promise. Zeal left the place without waiting for an answer from her. Zeal? Can wait for me. Princess Freya immediately chased after Zeal, who had already walked out of the mansion. Zeal? Is that his real name? Kalia overheard what Princess Freya said, tilted her head. Pinguimptia Grand Academy. Today, and only today, is the first day for the students who have been accepted in the Academy to carry out their learning activities. Right now, the students are already gathered in the Sky Dome building. Their class is divided into 7. From the lowest is Class F to the highest is Class S. Each class has approximately 100 students. Class S was on the highest floor on the Sky Dome, following by Class A below and so on until Class F on the ground floor. Zeal is currently in his classroom. His seat was in the very back corner of the room, and coincidentally in front of him was his roommate in the dormitory, Dalvin Burns. Ken, did you get a seat in the back? He looked at Zeal, who was pressing his cheek on the table. Yes, I also just found out that my seat position is at the back after I checked it. In my ID book, Zeal answered without looking at his face. With 100 students in one room, it might not be a problem if one or two people fall asleep during the class. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of footsteps entering the Class D room. The person who entered the room was their homeroom teacher, Kalia Vendetta. Instantly, the class became noisy. The male students were fascinating, while the female students were envious of her aura of beauty. Please, attention. Maybe some of you already know my name from yesterday's admission ceremony, but I will introduce myself again to you. My name is Kalia Vendetta. As you can see, I'm an elf, and I will be your homeroom teacher in the future. Nice to meet you." Kalia slightly lowered her head to the students in front of her, but her eyes scanned the entire classroom until she paused for a moment in the student's seat at the back. A vein popped up on her forehead, seeing Zeal sleeping on the table, using his hand as a pillow. But then she smiled and looked at Chalk and threw it with the wind magic to Chalk shot like an arrow towards Zeal. The students who saw it opened their eyes wide as Kalia silly threw the Chalk in incredible speed. That students will get hurt if he gets directly hit by the Chalk. Zeal was sleeping on the table, looked accidentally nudging the ID book, not from his head. The book fell on the floor and Zeal immediately picked it up. The arrow-like Chalk just passed through the place where he had fallen asleep and penetrated the wall behind him. What? Kalia gritted her teeth because she felt that she was being played with. Then she looked around the classroom and saw the students open their mouth wide. She would never have imagined that on her first day teaching, she would be mistaken for violence against her students. You who sit in the back, please don't sleep in our classroom. We're all going to train area right now. You'll be doing combat training between classes. Kalia cleared her throat and gave an announcement to the students. May I know for what purpose we do combat training between classes on our first day of studying at the academy? One of the students raised her hand and asked, of course, seeing how far the difference in your strength with the classes, there may be some of you who aren't dissatisfied with being in Class D, and maybe those who deliberately stay in Class D. But I'm sure this combat training will be a very valuable experience for you. Kalia spoke sarcastically while glancing at the students in the corner of the room. Then what's the benefit of knowing that? Other students also asked Kalia. But the benefit is that once you know how much different you are from the class above you, then you know how hard you have to try to match or surpass them. The way you can take their place. Kalia stopped her explanation for a moment and waited if there were students who were still unclear and wanted to ask questions. After seeing that none of the students asked, she resumed her explanation. And you must be asking, what are the benefits of being in a Class S? Kalia looked at the students and waited for their answer. They just nodded at Kalia's question. By becoming a Class C student, your prestige will increase in the school and you will get many privileges. One of them is free meals in the academy canteen. As long as you are still an academy student, Class C students will have private rooms without having to share with others. But for the first month, they will still share rooms with other students until a permanent list of Class S students is formed. You can also use the facility in this academy, which are exclusive to Class C only. And after graduating, you will have the opportunity to become a high-ranked military official in the 5 Kingdoms. Kalia, who was usually quiet, was currently explaining at length to her students. For the first month, you are free to challenge anyone and take their place. After 1 month, the fight for places will be held every 6 months. And every year, some of the strongest students in the academy will be selected, besides getting special privileges better than other Class S classes. They will also be given the title of Son of a God. Kalia ends her explanation, and they all go to the training area.